In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create nice hover lines here, as you can see, but also a break-even point here, so that we can just highlight the crossing point in here. Of course, this crossing point, just a quick note, is not automatically calculated because I assume for that there's basically a formula that you as the creator or the developer of the chart should have the number. However, we will get you the exact coordinates of that moment. So let's start to explore how to create a horizontal hover line with a break-even line in Chartjs. So first of all, what we need is to get our default code, which is chartjs3.com, getting started. Scroll down here, and you can find this link, by the way, as well in the description box, and copy this link. Let's copy this, and if you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video, which explains it all. I'm going to paste this all in there, and once I did that, I will cut out that, put this in here, and save this, refresh. There we are. So let me show you exactly what we're going to do here. So basically, this was the request. Can we create a simple chart, or at least simple, a chart with a line here? We have this tooltip. Well, I will not make it customized. I'll use the default, but if you want to know customize, I have a video for that because that requires a bit more time, and I will skip that for now. And then here we have the break-even line here. So for the break-even line, I'm going to get the item, or we will pinpoint the location. However, I assume that because I get this question in my email, I assume that there's a whole formula built in, and the value of it should be already in your formula, and that should not be calculated in Chartjs, but you should have that in advance. So basically, this is the entire chart. It's very straightforward. It will show you here. We'll save. Basically, it's a comparison of renting and buying a house, and how much would you save if you would buy after X amount of years. Alright, so let's start to work on this. First of all, I'm going to create a line chart here. Scroll down here, and then we're going to create here. We say this is a line chart, save that. And then we have two lines. We have one line, which is the red line, that will be our buying the house, and the blue line will be the rental. So we have this, and I'll say here blue rent, and this will be red buy. So just put it all in there like this, and I guess for the border colors and background colors, just be consistent, doesn't matter. And then this one here, because this is a blue line, I'm going to grab this, make this solid, alright, and delete everything else. The border width can be removed, and here as well. So if I save this now, refresh, we get now two of these, alright. And I see here the background color and the border color are here exactly on each other. So I need to grab this background color, put it here. Save that. Alright, so now we have the blue color, but they're overlapping each other. So let's say this. So we're going to assume when you buy a house, well, let's say this will be 100, and then after that it will be starting to become cheaper. I'm just going to make it like that. Very straightforward, nothing fancy here. You just calculate it step by step up. And then we put in 5, and then finally here 6. So what I'm going to assume here, it will pay here, maybe pay every year rent, and let's say we're going to pay here 20, then here 40, 60, 80, then 100, and finally here we have 120, so we're surpassing, and here 140. Alright, so we have all of this here, and if I save, oh, this should be 6, I realized, sorry. Save this, refresh. There we are. So we have here this basically this intersecting area. So what we're going to do now is start to work on it. And what I want to do, first of all, when we hover over it, we should do some other items. So let's look at it. When we hover over it, we want to have these nice big dots. So let's do that one, and then also do some other items on here. So I'm going to say here, because both of them have the same design, that would mean that we can just do it in the options, or else we have to be double putting it in here and in each data set, so that would be double work. So let's say here in the options, and I'm going to say here the following. We're going to say here, let's say tension 0.4, so it will be a nice elastic item, although it's almost just a straight line, so it doesn't matter so much. Next, what I want to do here was, we want to figure out specifically the, let's see here, the point radius. And sorry, that's not it. And the point radius was, if I look here, There's the one, let's say maybe about 7 or 8 pixels. So let's say, oh sorry, by default it's 0, but then we have the point hover radius, that's the one I'm talking about. That should be 7 pixels. So if I put a comma here, say refresh, alright, so no pixels here, but the moment we are in here, you can see this works. So although you notice that now we have to really pinpoint the area, don't worry, we're going to work on that. So what I want to do now is then here, what we call the point hit radius, and the point hit radius will be 10 pixels. So once we are on here, you can see it will automatically pop up. Alright, so then next what I want to do here is basically hover background color. Hover the background color equals white, comma, save, refresh. Let's hover, there you are. You can see here now we're getting close to it, except for one more thing. The border color, or the border itself, the thickness on hover needs to be expanded. So we're going to say here the, let's say here the point hover border color will be 3 pixels. Save that, refresh, and there we are. Is that correct? Well, sorry, oh, that's the border color, so that's not what I want. Hover, the point hover border width, of course, my bad. Save that. There you are. So now we have this, so that looks already nice. So let's look at the picture one more time. What are we missing here? We don't need to have a legend, so I'm going to remove the legend here. So we're going to say here, once we did this, we just do it here. Let's say plugins, and then you say legend, make sure you have a comma here down, and then we say here, display equals false. Save that, refresh. So now we have that part. Alright, so we did the most important part here, at least the aesthetics, basically what we can see, what the eye sees. That is basically what we've solved. So what we're going to do next is, oh, this is an important one, I realize. You can see here the tooltip. That's basically the next one. So what we're going to do next is the tooltip. You can see here, when we hover over one of these items, we should expect to get 2 data points here. So let's go and work on that. So in the after legend, comma, we say tooltip. And the tooltip here will have the following. That is, I realize this is not really exactly the tooltip. Well, it is based on the tooltip, but it's what we call interaction. So sorry about that, we need to go here down. And then we have to see here, let's see, this should be not in there, but here. Interaction. This is in the options itself, not in the plugins. So interaction, and then the interaction will say the following. Mode equals index. Doing this, save that, refresh. And let's look at it. There we are. So now we're getting just the data here nicely. Getting all the data here, and of course the text is of course not matching. So let's start to work with the text. In the tooltip here, we're going to work here and we're going to start to do specific text. Let's look at it. You can see here the years, which is basically this bottom here. I realize that this should be years. So we can say here, let's change that one. Year 1, I just want to do like that. And then, well, just copy and paste that. And then after there, we can start to put in this year 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and finally 2. Save that. Refresh. Check here. Alright, so we get the years now. So that will mean that the title is year. What we want to do, just below the title, we want to put in basically the information here. Buying will save you X amount. Now what I want to do is not only buying will save you, like here, we're basically in the negative, then we will say renting will save you X amount, and then else if we are here, buying will save you X amount. So we have 2 ways of looking at it, and of course you can adjust that to whatever you want or something else. So what we're going to do here is the following. We're going to say in the tooltip we say callback with an S, callbacks, and then in here we're going to say after the title. So after title we use a functionality for that. This is a callback function, so we say content, then arrow function expression or function arrow expression because it's a callback. Then in here what I want to do here first is console log context. See what we have. Save this. Refresh. Open up the developer tab and you can see here now what we get. We get all the data here. And this is what we need. Basically what I need is, you can see here the raw data. This is what I need. And that's what I need here. Raw 140 and the other one is raw of 106. And basically what I need to know is the comparison with each other. How much are we saving, or are we spending? So in the context, you can see here again, let's do that one, and then we're going to say here dot. Oh, and you can see context is immediately with a index, so I need to put an index in here, 0, and we say here dot raw. If I save this and then refresh, we should, if we hover over the item, you can see here we get the specific value. So that works. And if I do this one, exactly the same, but then for number 1, save, refresh, we get both values here. So now we can compare them. We can just do one minus the other and just show you if it works. So what I'm going to do now is here basically the following. We're going to say a constant, and then we say a difference equals what exactly? Well, we're going to say here this one minus the 0. So basically this is the blue line minus the red line. So this is the renting, oh sorry, this is the renting, the blue line is renting, and this number 0 is the red line, which is buying the house. So what would be more, what would be a wiser investment in the long run? So what I'm going to do here is the following. If I say here return, we should be able to get here now the difference. I put in this here, and I just save now and I refresh. You can see here now we get here minus 4, minus 23, etc, etc. And if we go here, it will be plus 34. Beautiful. So now what I want to do is here just a simple text. We'll say here the following. You can say return text, but of course I need to do an if statement. And this if statement will say the following. If difference is larger than 0, so we're saving money, in that case what I want to say then is to return, and my return will be this. Alright, so later on I will show you, because you will see that this is like a text with 2 lines. But I'm going to show you how we solve that. So I'm going to say here buying, what was the text? Sorry. Buying will save you X amount of dollars, or Singaporean dollars. So buying will save you SGD, Singaporean dollars. And then we say here, we can do here just a plus sign. And then we say here difference, concatenation. Alright. So then, semicolon, if I save this, and let's remove this one for now. Save, refresh. So when we hover over it, it will not show anything. So maybe you don't want to show if it's in a negative, but when you're on the positive, oh, let's see it, difference, sorry, horribly spelled. That is of course not what I should do. Alright, so make sure you spell it correctly. Then once we hover over it, you can see here, buying will save you SGD of 15 and X more. So what I wanted to do was basically this should be bigger, or well, not even bigger. I guess what's most important one would be next line. So how do we do next line? Because here by default it will always be like this in a single line. So to do that, I'm going to use here an array. I'm going to say array, so put it in brackets, and I'm going to say buying will save you. This is a string, comma, and then here another string. So we have here 2 items in an array. Save that, refresh. So now, if you are here, there you are. You can see here, buying will save you 15 SCG or SGD, so Singaporean dollars. Alright, so now we have that. Let's do an else. What I want to do here, in this case, if this is not the case, or if buying is more expensive, I'll say renting will save you X amount. Alright. So of course, you can see here we can still get a negative. So how do we solve this? Well, I'm going to show you basically a very simple trick here. So you see this here, and all I'm going to do is math. This is a JavaScript function and an ABS. And basically what happens is it will get the absolute value. So if there's any negative values on there, it will remove them. Save that. There we are. And basically the formula is correct, because you can see here now the blue on renting would be cheaper with $28 or $23. You can see here $42. So this works nicely. So now you can see here renting will save you, and then here buying will save you. So it will nicely switch the moment it crosses over the break-even point. Alright, now we have this. What I want to do one more thing here was these nice dots. Let's solve this. So for that, because right now we don't have them, we have these squares. To convert them, we need to use the point style. So in the tooltip, all I'm going to say here is enter, and I say use point style, and then here we're going to set this on true. By default it is set on false. If I save this, refresh, by default it will automatically get the circle shape. So if you want any other shape, you can specify that. So for example here we could even say here point style, and then this would be line, if that would be requested. Save, refresh, and you know, oh, I am surprised it didn't work. All right, let me double check. Point style, let me do this one more time. All right, so let me just quickly check why it's not working. All right, I will skip that for now. It basically has caught me slightly off guard. I guess it's slightly different than the standard legend, but it's all right. I will make a separate video for that. Anyway, we needed a circle. That was the most requested item, and we have the circle. That's the default setting of it. So what I want to do next time, now we have basically all the items we have here. So what we can do here, are we still missing anything? No, we get the values, there we are. So what I want to do now is start to create the lines here. When we hover over it, there should be like a arbitrary line or a hover line here. So let's do that one now. So to do this, what I want to do here, let's see, this is the option. So the options is here, comma, we're going to say plugins, because we need to create a separate plugin. And this, let's say this will be hover and a line and break even line basically, or the line. I'll just call them the lines. Very simple. Alright, so this will be our object. So we're going to say here constant. Then we say this equals lines. And this is of course our lines plugin. Lines plugin. Then we say ID lines, although we won't be using that. And then we're going to say here the timing. So when will we draw this? Well, this one we will draw before the data set has been drawn. So we have the lines first, and then the data set will come afterwards. So we say here before data set draw. Then here I'll just only get the chart item because that's the only object we need. For this we're going to use object destructuring. So I'm going to say a constant. This equals chart, and object destructuring is basically you get values within this object. You split them out so you don't have to use chart.canvas or chart area, etc., etc. So basically, instead of doing like this options.interactions, we can just say here interactions, and it will be recognized as the chart options.interaction, something like that, but it's specifically on the chart object. So what we're going to do here, what we need is, because we're going to draw on the canvas, so we need CTX. What do we need more is we need the tooltip, and we will be needing the scales because we want to have the specific scales X and Y coordinates because they might be useful. So once we have this one, and then finally I guess we should have the chart area to draw the lines in the right length. Say top, bottom, left, right, and then maybe here width and height. Of course you can remove anyone once you don't need them. So let's see, and let's start working on it. So what I want to do now is, first thing is, if I save this now and refresh, of course nothing happens here. But what I want to do is to create eventually a line, any line here. So we have all this tooltip effect here of the console log. Let's remove this, save that, refresh. Alright. What I really want is just to draw any line anywhere first as our starting point. So let's do that one first. So let's say here, well, this can be our break-even line. So I say here break-even line. And in the break-even line, this is what I want to do. First of all, I'm going to say here ctx.begin path to start indicate. In the canvas, we're going to start drawing a line. And then what I'm going to say here, we can look, what is the color that we really want to have? And the color, if I look at it, is for this one slightly light gray, and then if I'm not mistaken it looks like a dotted line. Well, this is a solid gray line, so I assume they are gray, or this one might be black, but it's alright. I'll just use them all gray. So I'm going to say here CTX, and then I'll say here stroke style to indicate the color of the border line, or basically of the line. We say here gray, and then next what I want to do here, I'll say CTX at line width. Let's give it a single pixel width. And then once we have that, what I want to was also a line that was dotted. So we're going to say here set for CTX dot set line dash. This line dash, put in here parentheses and then brackets, and and I'm going to say 6 solid pixels, and after that 6 pixels of white space. Once we did that, then what I want to do is start to draw the item. So to draw the item, first of all we say just ctx.move to. So what is our starting point? In this case, I do not care where we start. We can just say anywhere. Let's say we start at 10, and then we are, it's basically to the left 10, and then y would be the y coordinates, and let's make this 50. Alright, that's our starting point. And then we're going to say ctx line to draw the line, and this can be, let's say, 100, 250. Whatever it works, or well, it will work, but the question is how it will look like. I don't know, but we can just see, and after, from that point on, I'm going to show you how you can get the exact coordinates. So once we did this, I'm going to say ctx.stroke to draw the line, and then we say here finally ctx.restore to cancel everything. Save that, refresh. Alright, so now we get this dotted line here, and the dotted line goes somewhere here. And what I want to do with this line, I want to put it here and all up to the top. And if you really look carefully everywhere else, you might notice there are some dotted lines on other places, like our dots here. So what we need to do is, and this is a problem with the set line dash, it somehow moves everywhere, even if we do a restore. So, or what we maybe can do is ctx.close path, see if that works. Save. Alright. It still doesn't respond, so the solution would be this. Once we did this, we're going to put in here line dash, and then we just say here solid, 6 solid, and 0 white space. Basically, it will be always solid. Refresh, and now you can see here our lines are now again back to normal. Alright, so now we have this. So what we need to do now is to figure out how can we get the right location. First of all, to get the top and the bottom, we have this here. So we want to have the x and y coordinates here, or at least here move to, this is the x and y, x, and this is y, and this is x and y. So let's say I want to go from top to bottom, so I'm going to say top, and then probably here bottom, if I save that, and if I make this as well 10, you will see that we get a straight line. Alright, so now we get a straight line. But what I want to do now is to figure out this here. This is a tricky one. The reason why it's tricky is because here, right now we have our x-axis, and it doesn't have dates. And I'm not sure if this one was consisting of years. If it was, then it probably will be easier because you can pinpoint the exact date. But in our case, we don't have that. What that means is that we have here index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, this one here has all these numbers, and that's easy to pinpoint. But here is 0 to 1. So that would mean if we want to have somewhere in the center here, it would be 0.5. So the same here. If we let's look at this here, you can see here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know that's 4. 4 point, I guess 4.20 or 4.2, because this here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I guess 20% of this is being covered. So I'm going to say here 4.20. But 4.20 like this is not the way we do it. If I do this, you see here it goes in pixels. I don't want pixels. I want to say this is 4.20, but this is the index in 4.20. So not pixels, but whatever the index would be here, that amount of pixels converted into pixel amount, so we hit this point here. So let's do that one. So to do that, what I need to do here is the following. I'm going to say here x.getPixel for value, and then we're going to say here 4.20. The reason why I'm doing it like this and refresh here, alright, so that it gets better. But the reason why I'm doing this here is I'm going to assume that you have the formula ready of this. So as you can see here, because if I look at this here, this formula must be from somewhere. Because Chartjs doesn't build this formula unless you give it a specific function. And getting the exact break-even point here is not a Chartjs skill. It's basically a JavaScript or a PHP skill. If you're using database, get in your database, check an array, find in, and then you search and combine it all together. So it requires a certain searching. It takes some time just to tinker around with it, but it should be a JavaScript array functionality, not a Chartjs. Whatever the value is, can be assigned here. So you could say here, we could say here constant break even point would be 4.2, and then I would say just like this. So this is how you should do it, or this is definitely how I would do it if I have the item. This one here would be whatever the value would be from somewhere. You get it. If I save this, refresh, there you are. All right. So now we have this here. Well, we need to do more. So let's look. What do we need more? We have this one here. We have the line here. We need to make another line, but this line will be on hover. But secondly, we need to have the break even text here. So I'm going to grab this break even text first. Let's do that one first. So for that, luckily we have everything here. So all we have to do is put some text here at the very top. So what I will do here is the following. I'm going to say enter, enter. And I'm going to say here the following. I'm going to say this will be the break even text. All right, and then we're going to say here constant text equals, I'll just say here break even point or break even. So this break even, or I don't know how you prefer to spell that, doesn't matter. So then we have here the break even. Then what I want to say here is, what I'm going to do with this, I say here ctx.font. Then I'm going to select here what I'm going to do. I want this bold, as you could see here as well. This was a bit of bold text, so I'm going to accept that. I'll make that bold as well. So I'm going to say here bolder, and then how many pixels? Let's do this 12. That's the consistency in Chartjs. And then the font family, this will be Arial. So once we did this, the next thing what I want to do here is basically the color. So I'm going to say CTX, and then we say here fill style for the color of the font, and then we're going to say this will be just gray. Gray, or if you want to be official, hashtag 666, that is the one that they use officially, but it might be too light gray for you, so it depends on yourself. Next thing what I want to do here, once I have this one, I want to say here the ctx dot fill text, which is to start putting the text in there. And what I want here, here's basically the text itself, which would be break even, but I have this one here, so I'm going to just put that in there, and later on I'll show you why I have this here. And then what I want to do here, comma, and then here we have the x and y position. So for us, we already know the x and y position because we know this part here. I just want to have here this one matching, and then also at the very top. So we'll point it up here at the very top. But if you look at it carefully, you can see we have a problem here. It is not in the center, you might say, but it is basically matching here, but it's aligned left. We need to align center to get that properly done. So what we're going to do here is the following. Make sure you have a semicolon here. Here we're going to say ctx.text align, and this will be now center. Save that, refresh. All right, so now we have this here, but you might say, well, this is too nearby or too close, and you can see here there was some space between it. All right, so let's push this a little bit up. However, you have to watch out, because if you push it too much up, you will lose the font here. So, well, we have a solution for that. I'm going to show you later on. So what we can do here, first of all, let's push it up. If we say we want to push it 5 pixels up, save that, refresh. There we are. But now we got a problem. We have the layout being, or the text is being clipped off because it is beyond the scope of the canvas. So let's solve that one now. So what I'm going to do here, scroll down here, options, I'm going to say your layout. And then we have here, and I'm going to say here, padding. What I will do here specifically, padding top, let's give it 10 pixels. Save that, refresh. Oh, padding top doesn't work. Padding maybe I need 20 pixels, because the reason why it doesn't work here is because it doesn't push the entire chart. What happens is only the upper parts being pushed down a little bit. If we would do here just padding straight off the bat 20, you will see that it will make every corner smaller. So if you see that, you can see every corner smaller, and then we have automatically more space. But the reason I don't like this is because we're wasting too much of our space everywhere else. All I want to do is specifically say the padding, but then top, and if I need to go down 20 instead of 10, I will accept that loss because left and right and bottom are not being impacted. This is very important to understand. So now we have here break even. All right, so we have this here, and as I said, it should be normally a formula how you can get this one. Anyway, now we have this. What I want to do next is the hover effect, that we have this horizontal line and then we're done. So to do this, let's go up here. We have here again the before data set draw. All right, so we are in here. I'm going to put in enter, enter, and I'm going to say here the following. Let's see. We're going to say here, this would be the hover lines. All right, so we're going to create a line here, and it's just very simple again. Same story, ctx.begin path. And the begin path by default, so we'll say fresh line, no connected lines with anything else above. And then what we're going to say here is the other item, sorry, what I said is the stroke style. I'm not being focused, sorry. So stroke style, that's correct. The reason why stroke style is because I want to color. That's basically what we want to do. That was in my mind. We want to color the borderline, so we're going to say here, we do this one, and we can do, or we do this black maybe, that would be fine. The next thing what I want to do here, once I have this one, is the following. I want to say here the line width, and we can almost copy a lot of this, I realize. Maybe we can just even copy the gray one here. So then what we want to do is, again, you get a ctx move to. Remember, I don't want to have any dashed lines or dotted lines for this hover line. I only wanted to do that, but for the break even line, we had these dashed or dotted line option. So here, move to, where are we going to move? Well, this one will be based on hover effect. So we need to figure out that the moment we hover here, that this line will be drawn. All right, so this is slightly more tricky. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say here 10, comma, and then we're just going to do here again, top. Because we want to make a line from top to bottom. And we say ctx line 2, and this line 2 will be again 10, comma, bottom. All right, very similar. And then once we have that, I guess we could copy everything else. We just copy this, put it in there, save that, refresh. All right, so we get this line here. Now let's start to make this in a hover effect. So how to do this? To do this, we need to go in the tooltip here. That's why we had this one here. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to show you. Console log this, save that, refresh. All right, so now if I hover over something, you can see here it does something. And if I scroll down here, you can see we get some information. And what I need is basically this one here. Let's see, where can we find it? This active. This one will be very important. Right now it's not being shown anything because when we hover and then we go away, it will reload itself and it will do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab this specifically, say dot active. If I save this, refresh. Look at it, now you can see here length 0. But if I hover over a tooltip, now we get a length, we get even 2 lengths, and that's perfect. And this is basically what we need. However, what I want to do is specifically just get one as a validation. Do we have any kind of tooltip being shown? So I'm going to say here if active tooltip 0. Refresh again, and now if I go here, you can see this works. This works, and if I go in the white space, first you see undefined. Why? Because the tooltip will disappear. At that moment, it does something, but it will say undefined. But from then on, it just doesn't trigger anymore. So that is very important because this will validate for us 2 things. First of all, when do we need to show it and when we need to hide it? And secondly, where are we exactly on? How do we see this? If I click on this, you can see here we can get here the index number 2. This is very, very important for us. Because even the elements here would even show us the certain x and y coordinates. So we can just basically get this one here. I guess we can just even get this, or sorry, the x value, which would be this one here, the elements.x. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to show you here this. Say dot element.x. If I save that, then we get the coordinates. Oh, before it was, sorry. Alright, so what is here the problem? Oh, of course. So the reason why this doesn't work is it will not show any element with x because of this here. Because if we are not hovering anywhere on a tooltip, at that moment it doesn't show. So that's why it gives an error. So sorry, I cannot find that item that you're looking for because it doesn't exist. It only exists once we have the hover effect ready. So that will mean that I'm going to make here an if statement. So this if statement will do the following. We'll say just this if, that is the case. And then what I want to do is I want to cut this out, put this in there. And then what I will say here, .element.x, save that, refresh. Alright, so now you can see here, every time we hover over it, we get the pixels, which is basically matching here. And that's the pixel I need to grab. So, well, we don't have to grab it like that. We can just cut out this, and I'm going to show you as well. The moment we do this all together, we're very close to completion. And then what I want to do is I just want to cut out this. Enter, enter, alright. Save this. And make this space. Save. If I hover now, we should see a line. There you are. You can see the line here. And if I go away, the line disappears. So this is good. Now, of course, I want to get the exact coordinate here. So I'm just going to cut out this. Put in there, remove this. And then here, proper indentations to make it look at least a bit more professional. Save this, and then I realize here, maybe I need to do a restore. Do we have that? Or no need for this one, I guess. It's for the text, no need. Alright, so if I hover over it, there we are. Now we have everything here, basically very, very close to this. So you can see here, we could even remove the grid lines, but that's probably an easy task. But we have most important ones here. So to do this here, this is a real customized option. There's one built in for tooltip for the canvas. You can do it in a built-in for the canvas. I have a whole video for that. Or you want to do it in HTML. That's two options that you have. If you want to do it in the canvas, I have a specific video I'll show you. So to do that, a custom shape tooltip in the canvas, that's basically this one here. I would highly recommend you to watch this one. But you have to really consider this is really tough work. So this requires a deep understanding of the Canvas API. I have a whole series, video series about it here on YouTube. You can find as well. But this is basically the one you need, where you can customize it absolutely from top to bottom, which is absolutely phenomenal. Or if you don't want that, but you want just a simple HTML version, which is probably easier, but still also quite complicated, I would recommend you to watch this specific video here, how to create a custom HTML tooltip from scratch in Chartjs.